me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So I hope you're all well. Let me just put my banner on for a minute. Hope you're all well wherever you are. I know you're in all sort of parts of the world. Thank you for those of you as well. A lot of you let me know where you are when you leave a comment or whatever. That's really interesting for me to know. I can tell when I go on my YouTube analytics, does show where people are watching from. It's amazing, the amount of different countries. So thank you for that. So it's Monday morning. We're going to be looking at the 5th week is starting in this mushroom murder trial that we've been following. Mushrooms just seem to come up all the time at the moment, don't they? With this, as I say, this is now the 5th week, so we've heard 4 weeks of really quite damning evidence, I think, against Erin Patterson, who is accused and still hasn't been found guilty of putting lethal deathcap mushrooms in a lunch that she served up to her in-laws, her estranged in-laws. Now, I just want to say there weren't these sort of toads. The reason I picked those mushrooms is because they're much more attractive to look at. But these are the culprits, supposedly, allegedly, deathcap mushrooms that grow under oak trees, apparently. And in Australia, nearby where Erin was, there was evidence on her phone, computers, etc., that she had looked at naturalist sites where these mushrooms grow. Also, her mobile phone had pinged in the areas where they'd been seen and reported on these sites. So that was more damning evidence, wasn't it, against Erin? So as we come into the 5th week, I think we're still waiting for the defence to come up with anything. Really, the defence needs to come up with something, but I don't think the defence has got anything, to be honest. So what she's alleged to have done is served up this beef Wellington lunch that had mushroom paste, 4 individual servings, or 5 individual servings, if you include her, to these poor people. Don on the far left, his wife Gail, her sister Heather, and her husband Ian. They were all given beef Wellingtons on individual dishes supposedly, allegedly different from the dish that Erin served herself with. And we've heard how ill they became. It's dramatic testimony, I thought, of the agony and the severity of the symptoms that these people went through. And the 2 ladies were too ill to give a liver transplant to. It was thought they wouldn't survive the surgery. Don was given a liver transplant, but unfortunately he still died anyway. And Ian, here on the right, he happily was given a liver transplant, and he survived after being extremely ill. And she's supposed to have done this by picking these mushrooms, dehydrating them in a dehydrator like this, which eventually she threw away. She took to the local dump, but we're going to hear a little bit about the dehydrator and the tests, because it was recovered and tests were done on it. And she'd been practicing. And a lot of the case against Erin is lies that she told. First of all, she told these poor people at this lunch that she invited them to, she told them she had cancer and she didn't know how to tell her children. Now it turns out she never had cancer. And the defence was trying to say, well, she never said she had cancer. She said she had suspected cancer. But Ian, the survivor, was adamant. No, she said she had cancer, and we all prayed for her. So not only this woman sat and watched these people eat that food, which is, if it's true, she knew was going to kill them, she then played on their sympathy and got them to all pray for her at the end, because supposedly she had cancer. Anyway, we've come a little bit closer, I think, to finding the motive, because it seems that this is her estranged husband, Simon. Two of those people that died, Don and Gail, were his parents. Heather was his auntie, and Ian, who survived, is his uncle. But he was also invited to that lunch, and it's thought that she had tried to kill him before, but that those charges have now been dropped, so we can't really go into those. But anyway, he had been invited to that lunch. He decided at the last minute he didn't want to go, luckily for him. It seems that although at some point in their estranged relationship, they were quite, getting on quite well. They had 2 children together. There were talks of reconciliation. Seems like over the last year, Erin, sent some texts, said some bad things, not only about Simon, but about her in-laws. So I think that is, if there is a motive, if she is guilty, that's probably the motive. Just pure spite, personally, I think. Pure spite. And she'd probably been planning it for ages. In my opinion, it's a sort of I'll show you sort of moment. Maybe she didn't mean to kill them. Maybe she just meant to make the meal. That's a possibility. But personally, in my opinion, and I'm not on the jury, but I don't know what the jurors are thinking. But in my opinion, from what's been presented so far, she definitely meant to make the meal, if nothing else. So, of course, when she was asked where she was bought the mushrooms, we just need to remember what she said, because it's going to come up in this testimony today. She said she didn't remember. Some Asian supermarket. She gave 3 different areas she might have bought these mushrooms from. She didn't remember the supermarket. She didn't even remember the area. But she gave 3 possibilities. That guy, a guy with Troy, he was tasked with trying to find out which supermarket it was. Anyway, she didn't keep the packet. She couldn't remember exactly when she'd bought them. There wasn't any record on her credit card, so she said she must have paid in cash. And first of all, another important thing is, don't forget that first of all, she said the evidence we heard was that she'd said she'd opened this packet of mushrooms that had no label on it, no nothing, dried mushrooms from a supermarket. She didn't remember where it was. She opened them to make a spaghetti carbonara at some point, and she thought they smelt too strong, so she didn't use them for that. She used them later on for this beef Wellington, because she thought that the strong smell would be good for that particular dish. It's also important to remember she had been boasting to her Facebook friends that she'd been putting powdered mushrooms since she bought the dehydrator, that later she told the police she'd never had one. She'd boasted to her Facebook friends she'd powdered down mushrooms and put them in everything, even her children's chocolate brownies, and they hadn't noticed. So, yeah, she was definitely gearing up for this. She was definitely practicing. I think it's also relevant that she was a member of a true crime group on Facebook, or several, and they thought she was a super sleuth, So this is Erin Patterson, she had all these Facebook friends that came and testified, showed that a lot of the things she said just weren't true, like not having a dehydrator. She's a bit of a thicko, isn't she? She's one of them thickos who thinks she's intelligent and she can beat the police. And of course, she's not. So that's been her undoing. Her lies will be her undoing, I think, because, at the end of the day, it was never, there's no there's no video of her actually putting them up, chopping up deathcap mushrooms and putting them in the beef Wellington. You know, that it's like the prosecution are just trying to build a case with the culmination or the accumulation of all the different bits of information. Probably one thing in itself would not be enough to convict Erin, but I think once you put everything together, and we've watched 4 weeks of testimony, and there's still at least another week now to go. You know, the judge had said that it would probably end quicker than first anticipated, but we're in the 5th week, and it was only anticipated to last 6 weeks. So I don't know. There's been an awful lot of expert testimony, hasn't there? So, you know, and we have to remember that experts are brought in by either the prosecution or the defence. They're probably paid to come and give their information. So, you know, you can. I've always said I think you can find an expert to prove most things if you look hard enough. So, you know, the expert testimony is very relevant, very important. But it is, you know, you have to remember who's called them. Was it the defence or was it the prosecution? And they're bound to sort of. But then, of course, you've got cross-examination. So the cross-examination is supposed to make it clearer whether the evidence the experts are giving is the relevant evidence, or can it be challenged? So that's basically where we are coming into week 5. And it's been a very dramatic day today. Because a protester interrupted the proceedings. We've heard more information from the phone data expert. We've heard from the person was investigating where, you know, what actually happened. So it's quite a lot of relevant information again today. I do think that so far, anyway, the prosecution have made a good job in bringing their witnesses, and I think the defence have, well, you know, they're just doing the best with what they've got, which is not much, I suppose. So anyway, first of all, thank you for watching, thank you for caring, especially for the victims. Let's put a little picture of them up in the corner. You know, we must never lose sight of these victims. The 3 in particular who died, and then Ian, even though he survived, he lost his wife. He's been through the trauma of having to have a liver transplant. He's been through hell, but he looks well. I must say they've done well with him because he looks sort of hale and hearty. So I hope, you know, physically he's okay now, even though, you know, obviously mentally the trauma he's been through must be awful. Okay, so yeah, thank you for watching, thank you for caring about them. I'm still a little bit nasally and a little bit chesty, but I'm armed with eucalyptus sweets today, so hopefully I'll be able to get through today's video without coughing. Yeah, so thanks for watching, thanks for liking, thanks for subscribing. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and don't forget to press notifications. You need to press all notifications to get updates on this case, any other case that we're covering. Sorry, I'll have to talk through chewing a sweet now, but never mind. It's better than coughing all the way through it, isn't it? Yeah, thank you to my members. If you're not a member, please think about joining. We have an exclusive live stream every single week, and you get special members emojis to use. There are videos that are not available in the normal channel that get put on the members, or they get put on the members before they get put on the normal channel. Also, thank you to those of you who sent me a Ko-fi. Those have been, you know, it really does make a difference in supporting my channel. Thank you so much. Where else? Oh, thank you for your emails. Thank you for your, I don't think I've been on emails. You know, I always try and plow through my emails and reply when I can, even though it might not be instant. Thank you for the nice messages, nice comments, etc. Okay, so And I'm still looking for a new name for the lurkers. I haven't found one yet, but I will. But hi, lurkers. I've been doing a lot of lurking. Last night I was doing a lot of lurking on other channels. I quite enjoy lurking, actually. And thank you to Replay Crew who'll be watching this later on Catch Up. Thank you for watching. Now I'm going to say hello to those of you who are here in the chat with me. Thanks for being here with me. Hi, Tracy. Hi, David. Hi, Angel. Hi, Bluebell. I hate to say it's beautiful here today. It is. It really is a beautiful day because the sky's blue, no rain, no clouds, but it's not unbearably hot yet. It's 26 degrees. So anyone who doesn't know, I'm in Spain, mainland Spain. Looks like little bits of rain here and there. Did I say hello to David? I think I did. Hi, Angel. I'll probably end up repeating now. I've said hello to. Hi, Excel. Interesting, Excel. I do think, thank you, Excel. I do think, hi, Claire. Hi, Kaz England. I do get the impression from Erin that she probably likes a drink, but there's nothing wrong with that. Well, I like a drink. It's not that. I just feel with Erin, there's a lot going on under the surface when you look at her. You know, what she presents. You know, how she presents. I just feel that from just looking at her. There's so much more going on behind in her head. I think, you know, she's sat and brooded over all these things. You know, she inherited all that money. She was very generous to Simon's family. Maybe they weren't appreciative enough. I think she's a control freak. I think she's not happy that they were appreciative enough. She didn't she didn't want Simon really, but she didn't want him to say that he was separated on his tax form, you know, even though she didn't really want him, but she didn't want him to say that. Probably not without her permission or whatever. I think she likes to control every little thing. And when she was losing the control, that's when this plan came together for her to teach them a lesson. Literally, I think this is what this is about, teaching them a lesson in this sort of nasty, furtive, secretive way. I think this is how Erin is. And unfortunately for her, she forgot how she'd boasted about having a dehydrator, boasted about putting all these mushrooms in, powdered mushrooms in everybody's food. They were practice runs. See if that when you put things in a dehydrator and then powder them down or whatever you do with them, can you make it so they can't be detected, can't be tasted? Those were her practice runs, 100%. Why else would you do that? You know, you've got to think logically. Who would put powdered mushrooms in chocolate brownies? Why? What's the reason? You know, it's not as if mushrooms are even a vegetable, particularly that you would want your children to get their, you know, nutrients from. You know, you wouldn't think, you know, maybe a bit of broccoli you might do it with, or I don't know, a more nutritional vegetable. But it's all just as sketchy as anything, isn't it? I mean, we've got to face it. Erin, you know, why she did it all, I don't know. So we're gonna start now going through what happened in quite a dramatic first day of the 5th week with this protester running in. Not really any evidence that he's protesting on Erin's behalf, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So Let's see. Okay, so let's go back up to the top, start at the beginning. They had a full day for once. You know, they only did about an hour, didn't they, on Friday, because they like to finish early on a Friday. So the triple murder trial of Erin Patterson continues from the Latrobe Valley Law Courts in Morwell. She's charged with murdering 3 relatives by serving them a beef Wellington meal that contained poisonous deathcap mushrooms. Let's see. So welcome to week 5 of our trial coverage. It's a bright sunny day in Morwell with temperature climbing to about 20 degrees Celsius. Courtroom 4 is pretty much full with people watching the hearing, including lunch survivor Ian Wilkinson. So Ian is there. Let's have a look at a picture of him at the trial. So Ian, you know, he looks healthy now, so he seems at least physically to have recovered from his ordeal. But as I say, mentally, who knows what scars it's left on him. But he's there to watch the trial. Of course, he was a witness. Now, remember, this trial is not being televised, but the media are allowed, I think there's 8 members of the media a day allowed in that get picked by lot. But also, I think there's, you know, like some sort of live stream. So the media are not allowed to replay anything like photographs or anything like that. But the media are allowed to report on what is happening in there. And so we've been following, you know, we are reliant on what the people that are there say. You know, it's not firsthand. So we have to hope, you know, and I think this particular, this is ABC, Australia that I've been following. I think it seems to be that they're quite accurate in their reporting. So Erin's there as well. She's seated at the back of the room wearing a dark coloured jumper. So just something I'm not, so she's obviously not in prison. Not in her prison. Was she bailed? I think maybe she was bailed. I don't know. Somebody might know in the chat. The back of the room wearing a dark coloured jumper. So there's kicking off with Mr. Shaman Fox Henry again. We heard quite a lot from him, didn't we, on Friday? He's the digital forensic expert and he's back on the stand after he gave evidence last week. And Erin Patterson's lawyer is questioning him about his training in digital data extraction and the process he used. Let's have a look at a picture of him again. So this is him. He gave us a lot of information. We've learned a lot of things about the collection of phone data that we probably didn't know before, just as we've learned a lot more about mushrooms than we didn't know before. So yeah, this is him, Shaman Fox Henry. He's the one who's called first. So, Mr. Fox Henry says he used a write blocker in his work on electronic devices, which was supplied to him as part of the police investigation in the case. He says a write blocker is used when a hard drive is accessed to prevent any changes to the data that's being extracted. He says he also used the magnet Axiom digital forensics tool, but had not received any training in how to use it, but rather he followed steps that colleagues told him to. The computer that Mr. Fox Henry is being asked about is the computer found in Erin's house, where police found searches of the iNaturalist website and the Corranborough pub made in 2022. He's taken the jury through the process of how he extracts data from hard drives. And the discussion in the courtroom becomes quite technical as Mr. Fox Henry explains how he extracts digital artifacts from the device amid detailed questions from defence lawyer Colin Mandy. Oh, Colin was there. Mr. Mandy was there first thing. Let's have a look at him just to remind us. So this is Mr. Colin Mandy. He is Erin's main defence lawyer. When he's not there, we hear from Sophie Stafford, don't we? But it seems like Mr. Mandy, he's there today. So Mr. Mandy is asking whether he needed to set any parameters or explore the settings of the program he used, which he says he didn't. He said he did not examine or analyze any of the extracted data himself. Mr. Fox Henry explains that images extracted have a hash value, a unique identifying number for a digital artifact. He agrees an image with a hash value that's sent to other places will keep its hash value if it's not modified in any way. This is where it's like a foreign language to me. So I'm just reading it out to you. I hope you understand. There'll be some of you that are more technically minded than me, probably a lot of you. He was asked if he ensured the hash values of the image generated from Magnet Axiom had an identical hash value to what was in the system, and he said no. So what does that mean? Anyway, then he's asked about time and date settings in the extractions. He agrees that a user can manually insert dates and times in the digital items. He asked Mr. Fox Henry if he checked if the time and date settings had been manually entered, and Mr. Fox Henry says he did not. Then the jury is shown a report on the recovered computer. So the court is shown a copy of Mr. Fox Henry's report on the computer found in Erin Patterson's house. And the report shows 3 hard disks were analysed, returning combined results of, 2,647,721 digital artifacts. The report is quickly scrolled through, showing a series of tables that generated 67 records, the court is told. Mr. Fox Henry says the program he used, Magnet Axiom, can translate extremely detailed information on disk drives into material that is decipherable. Defence barrister Colin Mandy asks if that raw information is gobbledygook, and Mr. Fox Henry says he prefers the term data. Yeah, well, it probably is gobbledygook. We've all probably seen that strange raw information that sometimes come up on your computer, and if you don't know, if you know how to decipher things like that, like someone like Mr. Fox Henry, I'm sure you can do it, but if you don't, you wouldn't be able to read it, would you? So the record of website searches was queried. Colin Mandy takes Mr. Fox Henry through the searches found on Erin's computer. The court is shown 2 websites visited on the computer on May the 28th, about 14 months before the fatal lunch. Now, that's something else that's come out in this trial, isn't it? Erin was searching about deathcap mushrooms and ages before the actual lunge, 14 months before, you know, and I wonder if she had tried this on her husband before, you know, because there are these other accusations that have been dropped, certainly for the moment. I don't know if they're ever going to come back again. You know, accusations that she tried to kill Simon as well. And is this why? Gosh, 14 months she, you know, allegedly 14 months she's been looking at these sites and that. That's a long time of premeditation, isn't it? So at 7:23:18 p.m, a visit was made to the iNaturalist website, where a page about a deathcap mushroom sighting was made in Melbourne using the Google Chrome browser, the records show. Shortly afterwards, a second search is made for the Corumburra Middle pub, and Mr. Mandy asks Mr. Fox Henry if someone is on one website and then opens another browser window and goes to another website, if it's possible records are still being generated by the first website if they hadn't closed the first tab. And Mr. Fox Henry replies, it would only track the URL it went to. Mr. Fox Henry confirms that browser settings could allow for credit card details to be auto-filled on the pub's website. Now, I think we all do that, don't we, on our certainly on our personal devices. You know, you do, so that you don't have to keep, you know, loading up your credit card details or whatever. You know, most of us probably on our main devices, maybe not on our mobiles, but maybe even on our mobiles. But of course, it's more dangerous to load up payment details on a mobile because you take your mobile out and about with you. You know, you hope that your home device, like your computer or your iPad, something that's stationary, you don't, I mean, iPads aren't stationary, of course, you can take them out and about with you, but your home computer, you're probably more likely to save your card details and things, because it just makes it easier when you're paying for things or paying bills, you know, instead of having to get the card every time and tap it all in. So, well, certainly I do that. I mean, you'll let me know. What do you do? Do you have your, I'm not going to come around your house and break into your computer. But do you know what I mean? It's like, it's a common thing that people do, isn't it? Store their card details on their devices that you can't move, you know. Oh, thank you, Excel. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the family. We'll greet you properly on Thursday. Interesting that about Erin's previous conviction. I mean, that doesn't mean you're a murderer, though, does it? We have to remember that if she's been convicted of drinking under the influence, driving under the influence, that's not quite the same as being a murderer. So, you know, we just have to remember that, that's all. And we do keep trying to remember she is innocent till proven guilty. It's just that it really does seem to be mounting up against her. Anyway, Excel, thank you for becoming a member. Thank you so much. Okay, let's get back to it. Oh, hang on. Oh. So let's go to this purchase that she made at the pub. Under questioning from Colin Mandy, Mr. Fox Henry agrees a purchase was made at the Corumburra pub using autofill saved details. He agrees that anyone using that computer could use that auto-filled information unless there was a password protecting it. So yeah, that's the problem. We do it, but of course that is a problem if somebody else gets on your computer and you've got it all stored in your computer, there is a chance that somebody else could use it, I suppose. I tell you what, they could try and use mine, but they'd end up leaving me some money in there, because good luck to try and buy anything with my card. He says he wasn't asked to look at the data for how the computer was used prior to 7:20 that day. He agrees that if he had looked at the records, he potentially may have been able to say who had used it earlier and for how long. Mr. Mandy then walks Mr. Fox Henry through a definition of autofill on the computers. So an example is, if you are typing a word, take Microsoft Word, for example, and it recognizes the word you are trying to spell and prompts you or will auto-complete that word. I hate autofill like that. I hate it. That predictive text, oh my God. I think the problem for me is, I know it's useful sometimes, but just sometimes, you don't understand, you don't see it, do you? You don't realize that it's changed the word, and you end up sending out a message that is gobbledygook, because predictive text has, changed the word that you wanted to say. And the problem for me is because sometimes, I'm writing in Spanish and sometimes I'm writing in English. So whenever I put in, if I'm writing in Spanish, the predictive text challenges everything, because it's set, my phone is set to English, I think. The thing is, I can't really set it Spanish, because then it would do the same with any English text that I send. So it's just a pain, really. But anyway, let me know what you think about predictive text. Is it a good thing? The court hears that autofill use could be analysed digitally in some instances. Now, this image, I think, is important. The court is shown a data extraction taken from a Samsung tablet, which contains a thumbnail image of a black food dehydrator. Now, as I say, this picture that I have is, it's not the actual food dehydrator, but this is apparently a similar food dehydrator. So Erin definitely had one. And the problem for Erin is she lied initially and said she didn't have one. And in fact, that she had never had one. So, that doesn't go down very well, again, with the jury, does it? So, it's the lies that Erin's told, I think, that will, that will condemn her finally. It's the lies she's told that will contribute a lot towards it, isn't it? So this is the same tablet we heard about last week, which was seized from Miss Patterson's house during the police investigation. And the data modified is on the 30th of April, about 3 months before the lunch. Mr. Fox Henry is being taken to the technicalities of thumbnail image sizes in comparison to the sizes of larger photos. He says the computer analysis program he used, Celebrate, resizes thumbnails to make them appear bigger in reports it produces. And while looking at a picture of the dehydrator pulled off a Samsung tablet in Erin's house, Mr. Fox Henry agrees it's not possible to say when the original images were taken or what kind of device they were taken on. He says he could not say whether the image had been sent from someone else or who had taken the picture. Then they have a break. And then, just at that moment, when they come back after the break, the court is interrupted by a person in the public gallery. There's a sudden interruption as a man in the court stands and addresses Judge Christopher Beale. Let's just have a quick look at the photo of the judge. So this seems to have been an attack on the judge, not necessarily this interruption, this protest seems to have been more an attack on the judge, Justice Christopher Beale, rather than any protest to do with anything to do with Erin, which is interesting, isn't it? And because he asks Mr. Beale, how can you be a judge? And then he starts to outline a series of allegations against this judge, which we've not been informed of, the precise nature of the accusations. And he is quickly removed from the room by court staff. And as if the interruption had never occurred, the hearing resumes. Now, I just want to show you this guy. So this is the guy. I haven't found a name for him yet, but he's got this yellow T-shirt on saying what we are saying is give truth a chance. So what was that all about, I wonder? What's the judge done to him? Where does it actually tell us about? Must be on another one. I did have another one. Yeah, Truth Protestor interrupts mushroom murder trial. So a high-profile murder trial over a poisonous mushroom meal has been interrupted by an outburst from a protester inside court. But we don't know who this guy is or, you know, what the allegations, why he's so angry. He made this number of allegations against the judge before he was quickly escorted out of the crowd and out of the courtroom. And there he is. Wonder what that was all about. If anybody knows, let me know. But I couldn't find it just as I was preparing this. But anyway, just let me put a couple of windows down because I've got so many windows open. The ones I've finished with, I can put down now. So, yeah, wonder what all that was about. But it was nothing to do with Erin. Nothing to do with this particular case. It seemed to be a grievance with Justice Beale himself. And yeah, I don't know what those allegations are that he was shouting to them. But yeah, don't know. Very strange. Okay, so then the factory resets on the phone were discussed. So remember, Erin is said to have done 4 factory resets in total on her phone. 3 that were not successful and that were done manually, and 1 that was done, what's the word? Done not manually. Anyway, it'll come up in this. So the court is being taken to a report about a mobile phone seized from Erin Patterson's house, known as Phone B. This was the phone that was factory reset 3 times in the week after the lunch. I mean, again, you know, start adding together all this circumstantial evidence. And someone factory resets 3 times. You know, they're doing that for a reason. They're things they don't want to be found, aren't they? Why, you know, there is the only reason you would factory reset your phone really is because you were giving it to somebody else or throwing it away or whatever. You know, why would you factory reset your phone? Or if you've just murdered someone. So according to the report, the factory resets took place on August the 2nd, August the 5th and August the 6th. Oh yeah, no, these were manual resets. The 4th reset, factory reset, was done remotely. So Mr. Mandy takes Mr. Fox Henry to the times and dates listed in this report, and he questions the accuracy of it, given the possibility of times being in the UTC time zone. Is it the case? It is simply not possible to say whether that is a UTC time or a UTC plus 10 or 11 time. Now, I just want to say again, what difference does it make? Still a factory reset. Factory reset. 3 factory resets done. Doesn't matter what time they were done. You know, they were done on the 2nd, the 5th and 6th of August. Doesn't matter if they were done at 2 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night, does it? 3 factory resets done. So I don't see the point really of this questioning. But anyway, Mr. Fox Henry says, I'm unable to confirm if the UTC time has been applied or hasn't been applied. So I suppose the purpose of the defence, what they're trying to do is just try and cast any kind of doubt on the credibility of these factory resets. But the thing is, he cannot say that they didn't happen. He can't say they didn't happen. So I personally don't see the point in that, but never mind. So the defence finishes questioning Mr. Fox Henry, and the final reset from August the 6th is of a particular note, given that prosecutors allege that this reset occurred after the phone was taken by the police. So 3 factory resets before they took the phone, after the lunch but before they took Erin's phone, and 1 remotely wiped factory reset done after they took her phone. But Mr. Fox Henry confirms there is no evidence that the phone contained any data when it was reset for the final time. So was that Erin just making sure? Yeah, maybe she had already factory reset the phone, but she just wanted to make sure. She's probably been following the Stefan Stearns case. She likes true crime. So has she been following the Madeline Soto case, and she knew that Stefan Stearns had been unsuccessful in his factory resets? He factory reset twice, I think, and the police were still able to get up all his stuff. So maybe Erin knew about that. I mean, she's a true crime buff. So I'd know it. You'd know it. Any of us that have followed that Stefan Stearns's charges would know. You know, he tried to factory reset his phone, but he wasn't successful in wiping off the data. I'm sure Erin knew about that. Anyway, so Mr. Mandy finishes his cross-examination. Let's just have one more look at... so this is Mr. Shaman Henry Fox, who's just given his evidence. And this is the defence lawyer, Colin Mandy, who has just finished cross-examining him. Earlier, the defence had asked Mr. Fox Henry about the hash values of data and whether he had checked the values of the data he extracted were identical to the original data, which would indicate the data had not been modified. He says that the software indicated that there had not been any mismatches, and he has now finished giving his evidence. So we have a change of witness now, and we have a forensic pathologist taking the stand. And this is Dr. Brian Beer, who works at the Victorian Institute of Forensic Medicine. And he was the supervising pathologist for Heather Wilkinson's autopsy. So Heather Wilkinson, of course, is the wife of Ian Wilkinson, the only survivor. And this guy, Brian Beer, I've got a photo of him somewhere. This is him. He's the forensic pathologist, and he's just about to give his evidence, his testimony. So And this is quite, I just want to say this is quite distressing because it does show what this poor lady went through. So just give you a little warning, he's going to go into the details of the autopsy. They're not gory details, there's no photos or anything, but just to let you know, it is so sad knowing what Heather went through, that poor woman. So he said that the autopsy revealed Heather had necrosis of the liver to the extent that all the liver cells were dead. He says the lining of the bowel was also necrotic. Now, don't forget, Erin Patterson, who supposedly, ate some of this same lunch that these poor people ate. She had, what was it? A little touch of diarrhea, a bit of nausea. The other people that ingested this meal had these traumatic symptoms, but Erin still went off and around about her normal life, still ate, went off on that long journey to the flying lesson for her son, took a 9-second toilet break when she's supposed to be suffering from a bad tummy. But then you look at what the other people had, the extreme effect that those deathcap mushrooms had on their bodies. And Heather was so ill, both the ladies, Heather and Gail, it was decided that a liver transplant couldn't be done on them because they were too ill to survive the surgery. So it's like caught between a rock and a hard place. It's like, well, they're going to die anyway if we don't give them the surgery. But because they're so ill, even if we give them the surgery, the new liver, they'll probably die anyway. How awful. Traumatic choices for the medical team as well as being traumatic for Heather. Traumatic choices for a medical team is there to save people's lives. And they will have done everything they can to save these people's lives. And then knowing that you cannot save someone's life because the one thing that could save their life, a liver transplant, may also kill them or probably would kill them as well. So there's the choices they had. So the court hears about the extensive internal damage, organ damage, identified in Heather Wilkinson's autopsy. And while this is going on, her husband, Ian Wilkinson, watches on, sitting with his family at the back of the court. So remember, they all had to listen to that. Ian and his family had to listen to these awful symptoms that his wife had, probably at the hands of the woman that sat in the court right near him, Erin Patterson. So he's got to be there, breathing the same air as her, knowing what she probably did to him, him and his wife. Poor Heather, this is Heather here. Poor all of them, but, we're talking about Heather in particular now. So Ian's sitting through this with the rest of his family. Meters away sits Erin Patterson, who appears to be closely following the hearing. Then he goes on to talk about Don Patterson's autopsy. But he takes the court through some of Heather's medical history, but he says that none of her medical history contributed to her death. The prosecution then takes him to Don Patterson's autopsy, and he again tells the court they'd received some police reports, medical notes from the Austin and Dandenong hospitals, and a toxicology report. He notes that Don had a liver transplant, but the liver transplant failed. So sad. He says Don's cause of death was liver failure and multi-organ failure. He says Don's heart was weighed and found it was over the normal weight. It was enlarged and showed some signs of heart disease. Don't forget that Don was 70 years old, so there's probably not a lot of people of 70 who don't have some signs of heart disease, I would imagine. He tells the court there are many people walking around at the moment with the same heart disease, So he concludes it did not contribute to his cause of death. So then the court breaks for lunch. There's a little summary of what we heard in the morning. I won't go through that because we've just gone through everything. We'll carry on. Oh, we'll watch the video. So this is the video about Monday morning's evidence. We will watch the video.
A Victorian Police digital forensics expert has returned to the witness box at the start of the 5th week of Erin Patterson's triple murder trial. Erin Patterson has pleaded not guilty to the murder of 3 of her estranged husband's relatives after serving them a meal containing poisonous deathcap mushrooms. Alexandra Alvaro is at the Latrobe Valley Magistrates Court.
Shaman Fox Henry, he was tasked with extracting data from devices seized from Ms Patterson's home, a computer, phones, a tablet. And last week the court heard that data was recovered from a computer, and it included visits to the iNaturalist website, and specifically a web page that included a reference to deathcap mushrooms in Melbourne. So today it was Ms Patterson's lawyer's turn to question Mr Fox Henry. He's taken them through more detail into how he did those data extractions, some of that very technical. And the defence has put to him that he didn't have the qualifications he does now when he did those data extractions, which he conceded. He conceded that when it came to a photo of a dehydrator that was extracted from a tablet seized from Ms Patterson's home, that while there was record of that thumbnail, he couldn't confirm whether it was sent from someone else or the original device that that photo was taken on. And when it came to that iNaturalist visit, he said he didn't analyse records prior or after to those visits, and so he couldn't tell who had used the computer and the length of the session. Now, Erin Patterson has pleaded not guilty to the murder of 3 of her estranged husband's relatives by serving them a beef Wellington meal containing deathcap mushrooms. She denies that she deliberately poisoned her guests.
Oh, there's Heather's. Let's just have a look at that from. Yeah, celebrating the life of Heather Alison Wilkinson. Terrible. It is. It's a horrible case. I'm so surprised it hasn't had more coverage than it has, because this is a triple murder case. An alleged triple murder and one other person lucky to be alive. And just the way that it was done is breathtaking. I tell you, if she is ended up found guilty, we've talked about, isn't it, the absolutely breathtaking callousness of planning it, sitting there and watching your victims finish their meals off, telling them you've got cancer and letting them all pray for you. Just, it's unbelievable callousness if it's true.
At mushrooms, she denies that she deliberately poisoned her guests.
Okay, and Alex, Friday's witness, if we can just recap, was a doctor who treated the lunch guests. Are you able to give a bit of a recap of where we left off from last week?
Yeah, that was Dr. Stephen Warillo. He's the Director of Intensive Care at the Austin Hospital in Melbourne, and he gave evidence about the rapid decline of those lunch guests after consuming that beef Wellington lunch. He said that when they arrived at the hospital, they were suffering multiple organ failure, they were critically ill, and he then went through all of the treatment that the doctors tried on those lunch guests, including, activated charcoal, a medication called NAC that can protect your liver. He said that one of the guests, Dom Patterson, received a liver transplant, but unfortunately it didn't work. In the end, 3 of those lunch guests died. The sole survivor, Ian Wilkinson, was the only guest that survived that lunch, and the doctor said that when those other 3 guests were passing away, he actually turned a corner and started to get better. And Ian Wilkinson was sitting in the court as that evidence was taking place.
Alex Alvaro there from more.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank God that Ian did survive. So he's been able to give his evidence, hasn't he? He's been a very useful witness, hasn't he? And, you know, even the 3 that are dead, they were witnesses in a way, because some of the things that they said before they died were brought up earlier in the trial. So, okay, so jury comes back in for lunch and Dr. Beer is back on the witness stand. Let's just have a look at him again. This is just to remind you, this is Dr. Beer, who's currently testifying to where we are at the moment in the recap of what happened today. The defence is questioning him. So Colin Mandy, let's have another little look at Colin, just so we remember who he is. Colin is putting in a full day's work today. That's unusual for him. Anyway, so Colin Mandy is asking him if he could exclude any other contributing factors to Don Patterson's death. And Dr. Beer, I mean, I honestly don't see the point of this questioning. I literally don't. It's almost like he's just got to show he's doing something. It's been established, hasn't it? That 3 people are not all going to drop dead of heart disease after eating a lunch at someone's house and another person terribly ill. What's he trying to, I suppose, what is he trying to say? He wouldn't have, it's not murder, it's manslaughter, and he wouldn't have died if it wasn't for his heart. But what about the other 2 people? Anyway, Dr. Beer tells the court that if someone has significant comorbidities, they're not going to deal with the amanita toxins as well as someone who is healthy. However, he says he found no significant comorbidities. Oh, and that was the end of Colin Mandy's cross-examination. So that was just pointless, wasn't it? Absolutely pointless. Now this police forensic officer takes the stand. I couldn't find a photo of Ben. This is Ben Goodwin, who's now giving evidence. He works in forensic biology for Victoria Police, focusing on crime scenes and exhibits. He examined the food dehydrator recovered from the Coomberra transfer station and landfill to collect any vegetable matter or debris that may have been present. And he says a number of samples were collected. So the court is set to be shown a series of photos from Mr. Goodwin's report into specimens collected from the dehydrator. So just a reminder, this is what the dehydrator would look. This is not the dehydrator, but this is a similar dehydrator to the one that Erin dumped. Now, don't forget, Erin said she dumped the dehydrator. After initially claiming she didn't have a dehydrator, she then dumped it at the local dump, which she said she did because people were starting to suspect her. You know, and you sort of think, well, you know, where was it when she was saying to the police, oh, no, I haven't got a dehydrator. You know, that day when she, don't forget, Erin discharged herself after 5 minutes at the hospital. Really, as soon as they mentioned deathcap mushrooms, that was it. She was out of there. And she went home to hide the dehydrator, I imagine, to do quite a few things. She said she'd come straight back, but of course she didn't return for about an hour and a half or something, or longer. So she was definitely hiding things. I wonder where she hid the dehydrator, because then she later said she didn't volunteer up this dehydrator. Let's remember that as well. It's not that she said, oh, yeah, I did have a dehydrator, but I took it to the dump because people were accusing me, blah, de, blah, de, blah, de, blah. It's not, she didn't admit to having a dehydrator until it was found at the dump and she was seen on the CCTV dumping it. So that's more lies, really, isn't it? Why didn't she just say right from the beginning, here's my dehydrator? You know, so we mustn't forget that. It wasn't Erin who volunteered the dehydrator up. It was good police work that found the dehydrator. And of course, the dehydrator in the end was found to have traces, which is probably what we're going to hear now, have traces of deathcap mushrooms. So the first image is of a small specimen jar which contains a tiny brown item inside, which is believed to be vegetable debris. Mr. Goodwin says the debris was collected with tweezers. A second photo is put up showing the right-hand side vent of the dehydrator. A small piece of debris was stuck to the side of the dehydrator, which was also collected into a jar. Mr. Goodwin says a collection was taken from the door of the dehydrator, and the court is shown a crumb-like speck of vegetable, which was collected and placed into a jar. Next, a picture of a square white item is flashed up on the screen. This was sitting inside the tray itself, he says. Now we see one of the dehydrator's trays, an object that looks like a grate. Another small item was pulled from there. I mean, she really is a thicko, because she didn't even clean this dehydrator before she took it to the dump. She didn't clean it properly anyway. You know, for there still to be debris in there. You know, why didn't she clean it properly? She's a total thicko. And it's more of the same from Mr. Goodwin, who talks about more tiny specimens collected from the dehydrator. In total, 7 samples were collected, he says. The items were packaged, sealed, and returned to Victoria Police Forensic Management Unit for further testing and analysis. The prosecution finishes questioning him, and the defence doesn't have anything to ask. The defence, what are they going to say? You know, Erin has no defence, really, does she? Can any of you think of a defence that she might use? No, at this stage. I mean, she could have used the defence right in the beginning. Of a best defence would have been that, yes, she did forage the mushrooms, but she didn't realise they were poisonous, and it was a terrible mistake. But because of all the other lies she's told, she can't say that now, can she? So her defence literally doesn't have a leg to stand on, does it? So they don't have anything to ask, so he's excused. Now, this witness is a very interesting witness. This is the Department of Health Communicable Disease Manager. This is Sally Ann Atkinson, and I have a photo of Sally to show you. She gives some very interesting testimony, because it was her job to investigate where, you know, what happened. So she had a lot of dealings with Erin, and that's what we're going to hear about now. So, yeah, a very important witness, I think, this one. Hi, Suzanne. She did loan them the money interest-free. It was interest-free loan that she lent the family, definitely, I think, from what I can gather. I've never heard that, Excel, that the repayments went back to Simon and he kept them, but I don't know. Maybe that'll come up. I don't know. Maybe that's part of the reason she was annoyed at him, but I can't verify that. I just want to say I can't verify that. I don't know that for a fact. Okay, so this is Sally. Very important testimony we're going to hear now. So she tells the court that her team deals with anything related to gastro-type illnesses, including community outbreaks. She says doctors or labs may notify of illnesses, including possible foodborne outbreaks. She says an outbreak would be classed as 2 or more people being sick. And she says her team would implement any actions that may be needed to stop anyone else in the community getting sick from an outbreak. And she says on July the 31st, 2023, the team received a possible disease notification for deathcap poisoning from Dr. Conor McDermott at the Austin Hospital. And Dr. McDermott told her there may be 6 people ill from a family event on July the 29th. So don't forget, Erin's children also ate the leftovers from this lunch, though Erin said that she had scraped off the mushrooms from their portions. The other thing, of course, this was another thing, wasn't it? Erin did not want to, despite the fact that her children potentially had come into contact with the same thing that these people that were dying in intensive care had. Erin did not want to take them to the hospital. She had to be forced. Well, she had to be forced for herself to be assessed, and she had to be forced even for her children to be taken to the hospital. That again is another red flag, isn't it? You know, if you've heard, you know, you've got your relatives dying there, you know they're dying, they're in a coma, they're in intensive care, and you're being told that, because then they didn't know if it was from the mushrooms, the pastry, the meat, could have been from anything. They didn't know enough about it, and Erin still didn't want to take her children, did she? And we all have said, and it, you know, it's just logical, isn't it? God, you'd be straight down the school, get those children out of school, get them to the hospital and get them tested. You know, that all that is conspiring evidence against Erin, isn't it? Then she said the number of cases was clarified from 6 to 5. So who would that? Why would that be? I wonder. But anyway, she says that Dr. McDermott thought there might also have been 2 children who attended the event, but he was unsure whether they had consumed the lunch. She says he told her they had all consumed mushrooms, and he believes some of the mushrooms had been bought from an Asian grocery store in Oakley or Mount Waverley in April and stored frozen until they were used in July. And she says that Mr. McDermott told her 4 of the people were very unwell. So she immediately called her manager about the poisoning, because this was something that was quite unusual, she said. She clarified that she had never had a case of amatoxin poisoning before, and it sounded very serious. She contacted the food safety team because if there were mushrooms that were potentially poisoning people out in the community, they needed to be pulled from supermarket shelves. So can you imagine that panic? You know, so if like 4 people go down with mushroom poisoning in my village, can you imagine the panic then trying to find out if anybody else has had these mushrooms or whatever? Erin didn't think this through, did she? When she said, oh, I bought them in some Asian supermarket, she wasn't thinking that this would cause this great big sort of investigation. Because if these people have become so ill and even died, and she's saying she bought the mushrooms in a supermarket, then, you know, there's potentially another load of victims out there, isn't there? So, you know, she definitely didn't think it through. I think she probably regretted saying that she bought them in a supermarket, I think. Definitely think, you know, that was a big mistake. Hi, Marco. Okay. So she said she contacted Simon Patterson that afternoon as he was listed as Don and Gail's next of kin. She says he wasn't happy to speak to her. She says that happens sometimes when people are unsure who she is or where she's calling from. Now, I think we all can understand that. And I said, you know, lots of times you get phone calls, don't you? And people will ask for you back and they'll say, oh, you know, Victoria, you know, so if they're Spanish, that's what you get, Victoria. And I always say, well, who's asking? You know, somebody's phoned me in my home or on my mobile and they're asking me, am I Victoria? But I don't know who they are. So the first thing I would say is, ¿Quién eres? You know, who are you? Never mind, who am I? Who are you? And I expect this woman gets that when you phone someone just out of the blue like that. And especially in a case like this, because we don't know what other, maybe the press were already trying to get hold of Simon. So he's probably quite suspicious in the beginning. You know, is this a real person? You know, really a person that's an authority, you know, or is it someone just trying to find out, you know, information, even maybe just somebody snooping? So she says she emailed him with the official Department of Health account and he was then happy to talk. Seems fair enough to me that you would be very dubious of talking to somebody about this unless you were certain. And at the end of the day, anyone can phone you and say they're anyone. You know, you get all sorts of weird and wonderful calls. So she asked Simon Patterson whether Erin picked the mushrooms she'd used in the lunch herself, and he said it wasn't something he'd ever known her do. And Miss Atkinson says she later spoke to Simon. She says Erin told her she had started feeling sick around midnight after the lunch and then started having, excuse my French, explosive diarrhea. And she says Erin said she started to feel better by Sunday afternoon, so had about a bowl of cereal. There's nothing wrong with it. The others are in intensive care in the hospital. They're not thinking of having a bowl of cereal, are they? So, you know, Erin just carried on eating as normal from what I can gather. Before I just carry on, I just want to show, you know, I like to remind people of who we're talking about. So this is her conversation. This is Simon, Erin's husband, and the woman that's doing this investigation and asking him these questions is Sally. Just so you know, we like to have a look at the people we're talking about, don't we? She said that Erin said she got her children ready for school on Monday and then she went to the hospital after dropping them off. Do you know, this is just so wrong, isn't it? It's so wrong. You know, your in-laws that you served up this meal to are critically ill in hospital, and you get your children who potentially might have had some of this as well and drop them off at school. You know, at the very least, you would keep them off school just to keep an eye on them, wouldn't you? Well, that's what I would have done. I wouldn't have taken my children to school. I would have gone with them. We would have all gone to the hospital. Miss Atkinson said Erin told her she'd never made beef Wellingtons before, but she wanted to make something fancy for her guests. Yeah, she bloody well did want to make something fancy for her guests. Something special, isn't it, Erin? Something special with a few mushrooms in it. You know, it's just... It's making me speechless. She wanted to make something fancy for her guests. Yep, something they'd never forget, hey? A meal they would never forget. And don't forget, they all said it was delicious. The meal was delicious. So she says, Sally says, Erin told her she wasn't sure which store she'd bought the mushrooms from, saying she'd driven round a lot during the April school holidays when her children were at holiday activities. Miss Atkinson says she asked Erin whether they were frozen, and she was told that they weren't, but they'd been purchased dried and they'd been stored in a Tupperware container. She says that Erin described the packaging, the alleged packaging the mushrooms had been in, but said that she did not have that packaging any longer. She says she bought them for a pasta meal. But when she opened them, she thought they had smelt funny. She says Erin said she didn't use them all, so stored the next. Oh, so she did it. So this is something that you'll notice in a minute. Because didn't Erin say she decided not to use them for that carbonara? But now she's told her that she did, or she's virtually said that she did use some. So when asked whether that meant she'd used some, Miss Atkinson said it sounded that way. So there's another lie or another untruth. You know, Erin's told a lot of untruths, hasn't she, in her testimony or in what she said to different people. So Miss Atkinson said that Erin claimed she needed 1 kilogram of mushrooms for the recipe, so she rehydrated the dried mushrooms and added them to the ones she bought from Woolworths. And Miss Atkinson said everyone had been served their meals individually. The questioning turns to the children. Miss Atkinson says Erin said the children were not there, but they'd eaten leftovers the next day. But she says Erin said she scraped the mushrooms off because the children didn't like them. So they had been on there, according to Erin, but she still didn't want to take her children to the hospital. Because obviously, even if you'd scraped the mushrooms off, you wouldn't be confident, would you, that they hadn't, you know, that some didn't linger. Then the court takes a break. Miss Patterson watches from the back of the courtroom. No visible expression or audible reaction from her to the evidence. And off the jury goes for a break. Then they come back. And Miss Atkinson says she attended a group meeting with the Deputy Chief Health Officers, members of the Food Safety Unit and the department's media team. She told them the information she'd gained from Erin, and they decided to get the local council to start inspecting Asian stores for mushrooms. And that's when Troy, the guy that we saw gave evidence at the end of last week, he had to go around all these supermarkets, didn't he? So she says they wanted more information about the shallots Erin used as well, and the court hears the department wanted to rule out that the shallots weren't daffodil bulbs that can sometimes be sold in fruit and vegetable sections. Oh my God. Anyway, Miss Atkinson says she tried to call Erin again, but she couldn't get through. She says she then sent Erin a text, which was answered, and she said there was a number of texts exchanged between 1st and 4th of August. The first text included Miss Atkinson asking her questions about the drinks they had at the lunch, the shallots she used, the packaging the mushrooms were in, and she also asked for the names of the roads she was parked in or landmarks when she went into the Asian grocery stores. And she says Erin responded. Now listen to this. I think this is another key thing from Erin. Hi, Sally. Sure, I will try to get that information all to you as soon as possible. I'm just dealing with trying to manage and look after the kids in hospital here and a bit snowed under trying to manage that. So the thing is, this is so important. You know, when your relatives, I don't know if they'd even died by then, any of them, but that, you know, you've served a lunch. 3 people are critically ill. Well, 4 people are critically ill. That would be your priority to find out where those mushrooms came from. Just as a normal human being, wouldn't it? If I'd had 3 people over or 4 people over to lunch at my house, and then the next day they're all rushed to intensive care, and I'm being asked, what did I serve them? And, you know, where did you get it from? That's your priority to reply to that. Not, oh, well, I've got other things going on. No, just let me finish this game of Spider Solitaire and then I'll be with you. No, the priority is this is life or death we're talking about. And not only those relatives' life or death, possibly Erin's life or death, possibly her children's life or death. And she's like, oh, I'll get it to you as soon as possible. And what she means is that I'll get it to you as soon as I've had time to think about it and decide what I'm going to say. So then Miss Atkinson says she tried to contact Erin again on Wednesday, the 2nd of August, leaving a voice message saying she had further questions. She did not hear back from Erin. Well, What? You just blank someone who's trying to do an investigation like that. You blank them. Oh my God. So she sent another text message with the following questions at 9:29. Can you please confirm that it was definitely only the one other time you cooked with the dried mushrooms when you first opened them? No one else reported symptoms or issues when consumed then? So don't forget, Erin's made the mistake of admitting to this lady she had used some mushrooms earlier on, some of those mushrooms, but nobody was affected then. And the other thing, I'm just thinking here, what a selfish cow. Even if it's true, you know, she's not only even talking about the life and death issues of her family, her children, but these people are trying to find out where these mushrooms have come from. There's potentially a load of other people out there that might be poisoned by these mushrooms from this Asian supermarket. And Erin's just blanking her, not helping her to find out, you know, so she doesn't care about anybody's life, does she? She doesn't give a shit, if you pardon the expression. She does not care. She was also asked, please advise what drinks were served at lunch. Please confirm what kind of shallots were used in the beef Wellington. Were they spring onions or small individual shallot type onions, please? Did you possibly use your card to purchase the mushrooms, and can you please check your bank statements for the shop? That would be amazingly helpful. So this lady's being polite with Erin, but she must feel like saying, for God's sake, do you realise how important this is? And you're blanking me. This is important. People's lives are at stake. Erin doesn't care. That's because she knows nobody else's life is at stake, of course, in my opinion. But, you know, that just says a lot, doesn't it? She doesn't care whether they find this Asian supermarket or not. She can't be asked replying to what this lady's asking her, who's trying to make, you know, doing a serious investigation because people's lives are at stake. She don't care. Don't care. And you know what? She doesn't care because she knows that nobody else is in danger. Nobody else is in danger. The only people that are in danger or were in danger, they've already been poisoned. Then she says she heard from Child Protective Services who said they had an appointment to visit Erin. She says she asked the officer to call her when she was with Erin because she was having trouble getting back in contact with her. And so she's got to contact Erin through a third party. She says the officer, Katrina Cripps, who we did hear from earlier in the trial, did call and handed over the phone to Erin. She says Erin told her they had water, tea and coffee. So she's had to chase Erin down for that reply. Terrible. And she says Erin told her that the mushrooms had not been used in any previous meal because they smelt funny and she thought they'd overpower the pasta type dish she was making. And Miss Atkinson says this information was different from what Erin had previously said. The initial conversation seemed to indicate she'd used some of them in the first dish, but now she was saying she had not, but she wasn't very clear. And she says that Erin confirmed she'd used the small onion type shallots, not spring onions. And that's when she said, Erin said it would be okay to collect leftover food from her house. So then Miss Atkinson says says Erin again could not tell her any more information about where the Asian grocery store was, except it was strip shopping in either Oakley or Clayton. She said Erin described the packaging as though it had been repackaged by the store rather than commercial packaging with handwriting on a white label. Miss Atkinson asked if she went to a fast food drive-through or a coffee shop as she again tried to locate the store, and Erin said no. Thing is, you would remember the store. I'm sorry, you might not remember the name of it, Like if I went to any store, I might not, it'd be, oh yeah, it's that one on the main road next to the something that you do remember, like maybe next to the florist. You would remember which store it was. You might not remember its name, and you would remember where it was. She's such a liar. She is a liar. I'm going to have to get a Pinocchio emoji. That's what I'm going to get. Pinocchio for the members emojis. I'm going to make a Pinocchio emoji because it'd be handy for this case. Not only this case, for others. She says she directly asked Erin if she foraged for the mushrooms, and Erin said no. That's a mistake she made there. She should have just admitted she foraged for them. She'd have much more chance of manslaughter by saying that she'd foraged for the mushrooms, but she didn't realise they were deadly. But anyway, there you go, too late. So now, don't forget, Erin, two other people that said, another lady at the hospital who said she asked Erin directly if she foraged for the mushrooms. Erin just blanked her. She didn't say yes, she didn't say no. She just ignored, turned a deaf ear to the question. So Miss Atkinson says Erin told her she had made individual beef Wellingtons and that the only way people could have had the same portion was if they'd shared some of the food from their own plate. And Miss Atkinson said she relayed the information she received from Erin to the department's food safety unit, which got in contact with Woolworths, while the council was contacted to visit Asian grocery stores in Clayton, Oakley and Mount Waverley. More text messages about Erin's shopping trips are then read to the court, including about she bought discounted eye fillet for the meal and made other trips over several days. And Miss Atkins says that was different information from what Erin had previously told her, because she'd said she got all the ingredients on the Friday evening. More lies. Pinocchio. So, yeah, I'm going to get this Pinocchio emoji done. As I say, not only for this case, but a lot of cases that we look at. A lot of porcupines, aren't they? A lot of lies told. I think a good emoji will be a Pinocchio one. So, yeah. The trouble is when you tell a lie, you've got to remember what you said, haven't you? You know, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember. So she sent Erin some photos of a storefront and from inside a store taken by a council officer and asked Erin if they were familiar. She reads a text where Erin says the store wasn't familiar and answered some questions about what the mushrooms looked like. They weren't whole like those shiitake mushes in the photos. They were sliced. And yes, the packaging was about half the size of that. She says on August the 3rd, she spoke to Erin about how she cooked the beef Wellingtons, including using a mushroom paste to cover the steaks. Miss Atkinson says Erin said she used up all the paste and only cooked the lunch in one batch. She says Erin described the mushrooms as sliced and as of a similar colour to the button mushrooms. Oh, we can't get away from button mushrooms, can we? She bought at Woolworths. Miss Atkinson says Erin tried to narrow down where she may have gone in Oakley, Clayton and Glen Waverley, nominating areas of the suburbs where she'd likely visit. And Miss Atkinson says this is the first time Erin had mentioned Glen Waverley and that all previous discussions were about Mount Waverley. So Miss Atkinson then says she contacted Erin again to ask what type of pastry she used. Yeah, because the thing is, I suppose, you know, until then, just because there was a mushroom sauce on there doesn't mean to say that the deathcap mushrooms were in the mushroom sauce. They could have been in the pastry, couldn't they? They could have been, mind you, they said the gravy was tested and it wasn't in there. So it couldn't be in there. But yeah, it could have been in the pastry, I suppose. It could, well, to be honest, at this point in time, they didn't know where it was. All they knew was that definitely it was deathcap mushrooms, but at this point they didn't know whether it was in the paste, on the beef, in the pastry, in the gravy, in the mashed potato. I suppose it could have been anywhere, because she was powdering up bloody mushrooms and putting them in everything. Hi Yvonne. Hi BF. Somebody's saying hello BF. Ah, there she is. Yeah. The poisoning is one of the most common ways that women kill. Poisoning or cars. And my niece told me that. She's hi Darren, she's a psychology teacher, and yeah, most common ways that women kill are poison or cars. So that's interesting, isn't it? Just thinking about the Karen Reid trial at the moment. I'm not covering that. I'm not getting involved with that. But yeah, she's accused of course, killing her boyfriend with a car. And that is, along with poisoning, one of the most common ways that women kill. So, where are we? So, he said she contacted Erin again to ask what type of pastry she'd use. And she says, Erin responded she used a combination of Pampas puffed pastry, leftovers in her freezer. Let's have a look at this. I don't know this pastry, but all I know is when I was preparing this earlier, it made me hungry. It doesn't take much to make me hungry. But it looks nice, doesn't it? Yeah. A combination of Pampas puff pastry and a combination of phyllo pastry that she had left. So this is the pastry she said she used. Combination of phyllo pastry and Pampas puff pastry. Looks nice, doesn't it? Must be nearly lunchtime. Yeah, she followed up with a text saying she also used phyllo pastry. And then Mr. Judge Beale interrupted the questioning and said the court will break for the day. So they've got a full day in. There's a lot there, isn't it? And the jury got shown out. So, yeah. That is the coverage from the first day in the 5th week of this trial. So we've seen the pastry. We've just heard the testimony from Sally, who was doing the investigation. And now Judge Beale has decided that's the end of it for Monday. But they'd got through a lot for once, because sometimes it's so much stop and start sometimes. You know, it's frustrating, isn't it? Because it must be very frustrating for the family as well. So what's this here? This is a review, but let's hear the review. Oh no, that's all I don't want to listen to all the episodes. No, I only want an account of. For a recap of today's events, check out this wrap. Let's have a look. So here's just a summary of what happened today, okay? So a Department of Health investigator, I need to share it. A Department of Health investigator looking into the deadly lunge that killed 3 people says that accused murderer Erin Patterson provided different accounts of events over separate interviews. Sally Ann Atkinson told the Supreme Court trial how Miss Patterson had initially indicated using dried mushrooms from an Asian grocer in a pasta dish. So that's a very short. I don't want to go into the whole thing again. There's a beef Wellington for anyone who, I mean, that looks lovely, doesn't it? If you like beef. I'm not a lover of beef, to be honest, but I do like things covered in pastry. So, oh, and don't forget, yeah, a protester stood up and had a whinge to the judge. Seems like the protester that stood up today, their issue was with the judge about truth, not anything to do with Erin's case, apparently. So that was something else dramatic that happened. A protester protesting against the judge. Truth. Saying that, you know, why not tell the truth? And then gave all these allegations against the judge that we don't know exactly what they were. But so the protester was not there to protest for Erin or against Erin. From what I can gather, it was nothing to do with Erin. It was more concerned with an attack on Justice Beale. So I'm just wondering if while I'm on, no, I'll do it later. So I'm going to make an emoji of a Pinocchio that we can put up on this when we talk about this case or any other case when somebody's telling porcupines, because we've got, if you remember, we've got our mushroom emojis. And of course, don't forget my favorite emoji, which is the waffle emoji. I'm not going to waffle now because I'm tired. And gosh, I feel like I've been talking a long time. I'm going to go and rest my voice. But I am going to make a Pinocchio emoji, definitely. And in my opinion, Erin, she's going to hell because what she's done is pretty nasty to say the least. Always nasty to kill someone, of course, take someone's life. Nobody has the right to do that. But when you premeditate it for as many months as it seems like Erin probably has, allegedly has, yeah, sit there, watch someone eating what you know is going to poison them, or at least make them really unwell. Maybe she didn't realise she was going to kill them. That's a possibility, of course. Maybe she just wanted to teach. I think she wanted to teach them a lesson. Whether she intended to kill or not, don't know. And then say she's, you know, got cancer, get them to pray for her after she's fed them with this poison. Just terrible, isn't it, really? The lies this woman's told. Then trying to blame some poor Asian supermarket. Yeah, she's not a very nice person, is she, at the end of the day? Hey, there you go, XL. You can use the waffle now. So, yeah, I'm off. Yeah, candles for the, let me put some candles. I can't light a candle at the moment because I found that when I light a candle, the perfume in the candle really affects my throat. But we'll have a candle for each of the people that died. You know, for Don, for his wife Gail, and for Heather. That they're the important people, really, at the end, aren't they? Ultimately, in this, these are the people that have lost their lives, suffered unbearable trauma, as far as Ian's concerned, who managed to survive. So thank you again to Excel for joining. Thank you so much. We'll see you on Thursday in the member. Well, we'll probably see you before then, but we'll see you in the members live. We'll welcome you properly. And yeah, thank you, all of you, for liking, subscribing, for watching. All of you that are members, the rest of you members, people who've bought me Ko-fis, people who've sent me super stickers, nice emails, left nice messages. Thank you so much. Take care, whatever you decide to do today or tonight or wherever you are in the world. Just be careful, look after you. And I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God always go with you. Adios.